phone and I knew that had happened. Hang on, bear with me. There we go. And there we go. It wouldn't be a PSN stream without a minor audio issue to start the day. The NBA trade deadline is upon us. It is only right that I assembled the three Musketeers. We've got Sixers managing editor Zach Shalvalella. We've got our two lead writers, David Esser, who is flaunting the most gorgeous man bun the world has ever seen, and Sean Bernard, aka Blake Griffin. What are we making of the day so far? Obviously, the Sixers have made one move, as I've so eloquently illustrated to the left-hand side of the screen. George Hill is now a Philadelphia 76er, along with an Iggy that isn't Iggy Iguodala. It's okay. It's a different Iggy. It's not the Iggy we wanted, but it's an Iggy. I'll come to you first, Zach, as the head honcho of the group. How are you feeling about this trade and what the Sixers are giving up? Because actually, no, before I come to you, can I move to Essie, who only found out a few seconds ago after simping a little bit for Big Vincent that he's no longer a Sixer. How are you feeling? Are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Like, obviously something could still go in here in the last couple of minutes. It kind of feels like everything's dying down. A lot of moves that we all thought were going to be made might not be made. Like the George Hill trade, I think we're all in agreement there. I'm happy they didn't overpay for 35-year-old point guard who got carried by a Kawhi Leonard a few years back. I'm okay with that.
That's if anyone bet the under on how long it took Essie to slander Kyle Lowry, he would have won there. Obviously, Zach, so yeah, let's look at the trade then. Obviously, George Hill coming in, been around the league a little while, plenty of experience. How do you think he fits into this Sixers team and where it's at right now, Zach?
So George Hill fits like a glove, and I'm going to get a little more in on that in just a second, but I did just want to let everyone know first, because it was something that could have potentially related to the Sixers. There was some rumors about J.J. Redick being traded to the Mavericks just before 3 o'clock. That is happening. Along with that, Trey Lyles is going to be involved. It's actually a multi-team trade involving the San Antonio Spurs, kind of an odd format with Redick going to Dallas. And involving the Spurs as well. So still more details. Kind of like Essie said, stuff can still happen a little bit over the next few minutes, but that's one buyout candidate who's not coming to Philly at this point. But as far as George Hill, I love him. Absolutely. I think he is the perfect fit of really what was available, and he was the best combination of really everything that the Sixers need, but also just the price point that they wanted to go at. Lonzo Ball clearly was too expensive for every team, as was how it seems Kyle Lowry also. So to have a guy who can fill that pick and roll and serve that 3-and-D role at the same time is just immeasurable to the Sixers team. You can have Shake Milton play off ball now, which I think is just going to free him up even more, and we're going to see more of the old Shake Milton, a little more consistent, and I think his jump shot's going to improve as a result of this. I think that the numbers that you see from three are going to look a lot better. So the George Hill move is not just about George Hill. He's a good player in his own right. Sixers are better just for that, but I think the rest of the team might flow a little bit better by having him also.
Yeah, and I think the one guy that I would always turn to in these instances to come up with the phenomenal backstory and how he's going to fit the team and just really painting his picture. Sean, how are you feeling about this? Because, yeah, I've learned to trust your insight when it comes to, the career so far. I mean, what have you seen from George Hill in the past that would either make this a steal from what? Is this another good Morey move that we can kind of all get behind?
Yeah, I'm thrilled with it. I mean, George Hill's pretty much the ultimate professional in a way that, he's a perfect veteran on a team. There's nothing that's going to be thrown at him that he's not ready for. He's been around the league forever, seen it all, been in playoffs, done everything this team that they're going to need from him going forward. And I just love his fit on the team. I love having another ball handler. I think that's key, that this is a guy that you can trust late in games when we need another guy out there like that. Like Zach said, I love the prospect of moving Shake to more of an off-ball role with the second team. And I think it still opens things up in the half-court offense in kind of the same way that people were talking about with the Lowry deal. With that, I think George Hill brings a lot of the same thing for a far smaller price. And again, it's not the sexy move, but I think it's kind of the type of move that the little things that get the job done. So I'm super happy that they kind of didn't overplay their hand today and kind of stuck to what got them here.
Yeah, it's been, I think, an intriguing run up to the deadline. And to be honest with you, I getting too sloppy. Couldn't be prouder of the content that you guys have put out, whether it's in terms of trade targets, ideas, or players to hold on to. Or guys, obviously Danny Green. I know Sean put out recently about how he should definitely be part of their postseason plans and not at all linked with anyone, which is what we're seeing today. Is Danny Green on the way? We know the Warriors were in play for him a little earlier today. Could you see something materialise in there? Would it hurt to lose Danny Green at this point? Because I know Sean was a big advocate of waving that flag. Does everyone share the same sentiment?
I know me and David are big time on the same page here with the anti-Danny Green slander, and just that the little things that he does for this team that go it's seemingly unnoticed, I think is a big deal, and I'm thrilled that he's still on the team. I didn't like how all those rumors were swirling throughout the day, and I think there was a big part of me that thought that at this point he wouldn't be a Sixer, so I'm happy he's still here, and I think to me, it's a big deal that he's the perfect complementary piece in terms of spacing, playing in his role, doing the little things. And that's a costly thing to lose that I'm glad we didn't just sacrifice for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I wanted to touch on, I know Junebugs got the first comment in saying they don't need Kyle Lowry, it's too much to give up. Why don't they just trade Shake and Kuzma to get Redick? Now, the JJ Redick thing, I understand. I know obviously he was great in Philadelphia, one of the best sharpshooters, probably that the game has ever seen, really, and you go back to his history. Is it worth giving up someone like Danny or just trying to get Redick back? If you keep Danny Green and Seth Curry, is there room for someone like a JJ Redick to come in, or is it just kind of overkill at that point?
Danny Green's offense is better than JJ Redick's offense at this point. Then you got to factor in Danny Green's defense.
Oh, I had a bit of an echo there. Sorry, yeah, it's an interesting one, but I know a lot of people obviously have an emotional tie to Redick because of what he did with Philadelphia, and it's hard. It's the same with Kyle Lowry. I know David's probably amping up for any moment to rip into Kyle a little bit, but because there is that Philadelphia tie, and it's hard to move on and let go. Do you want to take the floor just to explain why Kyle Lowry will be a bad decision, Dave? Because I think he's just gassing himself up a little bit for this moment.
Yeah, I do. First and foremost, on Danny Green, I put out a tweet an hour ago. Danny Green's shooting 39% from three on 6.2 attempts per game. He's third on the team in steals. He's third on the team in defensive win share. Those numbers aren't easy to replace. There are very few players in the league who you could trade Danny Green for right now and get that same type of production. He's won 3 championships for a reason. I know, you kind of throw that out there like, oh, he was on the Spurs and he played with Kawhi, he played with LeBron. Those numbers speak for themselves. You could flip him, Victor Oladipo to Miami, by the way, so no Kyle Lowry there.
Wow.
Interesting. But, now circling to Kyle Lowry, I don't want to give off the impression that I think Kyle Lowry is some scrub. He's way better than George Hill. In a vacuum, he's better than Danny Green. But when you look at the cost that it would take to get him, someone who's 35, someone who reportedly wants $25 million next year and the year after.
Is that my MacBook or is SE? Hello?
We're back.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, as much as people want to win a championship right now, you look at Kyle Lowry. Number one, does he even put you into a lock the finals right away? I don't think so. You look at his age, his numbers are declining, his athleticism declining. But then you look at what you have to give up. You give up all your assets. So hypothetically, let's say they don't win the championship this year. You're going to want to be in a position next offseason to go get another star, to get significant role players. If you burn all your assets for a 35-year-old Kyle Lowry right now, that's it. You're done. You can't. There's no more movement. You don't get to make draft picks. You don't get to bring in better players. That's your final throw it at the wall. Lowry's the missing piece, and I just don't hold him in that type of esteem.
I think with the youth of this, I mean, if it was a slightly older team, all right, I don't want to say the Lakers just out of that, but something like there's a bit more of a veteran presence around them. The Sixers are a young team. They're a young star team. You look at, obviously, Simmons and Embiid being the centre points. I know Tobias is a little bit older, but Tyrese Maxey's a long-term piece. We've seen what he can do, and he's already been, reportedly attached to trade rumours here and there. But if this team was older and they were like, do you know what, this ship is about to sail, let's make 1, 2, 3 year run to make this title charge, maybe. But I think the Sixers are a young team. They're up and coming, and they've got enough about them to sustain what could be a 5-6 year window of getting to finals appearances or getting to a competitive playoff spot. So yeah, I agree. I think that shipping out that kind of asset and then paying the cost, it's not the right move. And it was the same way, and I don't want to be that guy to make it Eagles, but I was against Darius Slay for the same reason, where a little bit older, price was at a premium, you have to trade to get him. In comparison to someone like a Byron Jones, that would have been my guy long term for the Eagles, because they weren't one piece away. Ultimately, that didn't happen, and that's a very different conversation, I know. But obviously, Steve just put in the chat that Houston's trading Oladipo to Miami, which is mad, because I'm pretty sure he's been on the team for about 7 minutes, and is already on the move again. So that's interesting, but also eliminates them from what I've seen to be, the Kyle Lowry sweepstakes. So I know Tyler Herro's name was reportedly in there. See, I might have been away today, but I've been keeping an eye on these things. His name was in the mix. I know there's one man that Sean's very attached to in the way of Lowry, who would love to get him. So instead of Lowry, we'll go for someone else beginning with L. I mean, would that still be possible, Sean? Could the Sixers pull that off on the same day?
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved that. It looks like the Bulls are holding on to him at this point. I haven't kind of heard his name circulate too much today, but I think that just adding a stretch 4, I think that still should be on the watch for the buyout list. Markkanen's kind of a bigger name than I think, like, it would have taken a fairly significant deal to get that done, so I think that was kind of out of the price range that Mark was looking at it when we're kind of looking back at it now. But again, I still think stretch 4 is a position of need for them, and adding, obviously now that they traded Poirier and Bradley, just overall big man is something that they need to look to add. So I don't think that's a closed chapter of the book yet.
Speaking of closed chapters of books, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, the Toronto Raptors will keep Kyle Lowry officially. So not much of a surprise, especially since Oladipo going to Miami. But looks like Toronto played themselves.
Yeah. Is that not going to hurt them? Because we had this before. Like, my whole worry with the James Harden saga with Ben Simmons was like, if after having his name attached for that long, is it not going to hurt Ben when you've got to walk back into that team that's been trying to trade you for a little bit? It's kind of a bit awkward now, and they wanted to move on. I know Lowry's been a bit more of an aggressor in that front. Is it going to be disappointing for Toronto now and Lowry to kind of both have to go, right, back we go then, let's give it another shot, let's see if we can, make it happen?
I don't think so, because Lowry loves Toronto. He's happy there. I'm sure he, would have been happier playing for a contender and playing for something. I mean, Toronto might not even make the playoffs, let's be honest here. But, he loves the city there. He can basically choose whomever his next team is in the offseason. So I think Lowry's fine. He probably would have preferred landing in LA, Miami, or Philly, but he's not heartbroken. He just gets more time to play in the city that he loves.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't as kind of a threatening situation as it was with Harden. It wasn't kind of at ends with each other as he was with ownership, but with Lowry as it was with Harden in Houston. And as much as Lowry wanted out of there, it was much more for basketball reasons than kind of personal things like that. So we'll see if Lowry and if the conversation is still around this summer and Lowry actually wants to be in Philly that bad and is willing to take a discount here, we're for sure more than welcome him at that point. Yeah,
I mean, I've always wondered that with the whole Kyle Lowry thing. Like, I can't tell. Is it my MacBook that's on fire, or is anyone else having audio issues, or is it me? If I mute mine, I don't know. My MacBook might be on fire. Anyway, I've always found it weird with Lowry, where it's like, it's the same with most players, where they kind of like the idea of being the hometown guy, but they don't want to take the pay cut. And it's like, I still want the max deal. It's like, hey, I'd love to come home. I love this team. I'm going to wear caps all the time, but still pay me $25 million, lol. Like, I've always found that a bit odd. Like, they just kind of play on it a little bit to get some traction. So, yeah, it'd be interesting. But obviously, Lowry's going to want to try and secure one last bag, I suppose, or one last sizable one before, I suppose it almost moves into, like, prove-it territory, and he kind of journeys around a little bit, taking the shorter, higher-grade pay sort of packets.
Try not to Lowry. He wants 2 more years, at least 25 million. So.
Yeah, I'm sure David would be thrilled at that. So But it's interesting though. It's an interesting spot to be in. Like, where do you think the Sixers? So the other guy we haven't spoken about, obviously, is Iggy, who's come in with this George Hill trade, and the Sixers have kind of shuffled things around a bit. I'm going to come to Sean for some of that, because I know Sean is sort of our encyclopedia about every NBA player in the history of the league. Have you got something for us on Iggy?
Yeah, Yeah, he went to Michigan. He's okay. Honestly, I don't see very much of a fit on the roster or him getting any sort of time. He reminds me a little bit of like Justin Anderson-ish. He's kind of just, I don't know. He's okay. I don't see him competing for minutes in any mean, and they might give him a shot here or there, but it's kind of more of a just throw-in piece to that. So George Hill is definitely the prize of the trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I think the attention obviously has to turn to the buyout market.
For sure.
There was talk of the Sixers wanting another D&3 type guy, another stretch 4, stretch 5. Obviously, they traded away all of their center depth at the moment. So now it's, can they get a LaMarcus Aldridge off the buyout? Can they get a DeMarcus Cousins when he gets bought out? Like, are there going to be other wing players or backup guards that get bought out? All the attention's got to go to, because I like George Hill. I don't want to go crazy and act like he's some push the needle type guy. You look at what Brooklyn has at the moment. Don't think George Hill is really going to be clamping up Kyrie Irving down the stretch. But obviously, they kept their depth. They kept Matisse. They kept Shake. They still have Tyrese Maxey. Hopefully he starts to get some more minutes. But now it's about, can you fill in the margins enough to overtake a team like Brooklyn, to overtake a team like Milwaukee, because they didn't add any crazy star power. Like George Hill, he's a good piece. But so now their biggest weapon going into the postseason has to be their depth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to piggyback on top of that, it's very relevant to note the pieces that kind of survived this trade deadline, and that's specifically Maxey we're talking about, that he now seems to have more of a long-term future with the team. Matisse, we talked about his importance, and that's more of a short-term pressing, is that we're going to need him in the playoffs and into defensive situations with that. Mike Scott, even still on the team, I think that's shocking that he's still here. And so a lot of these guys, there's not nearly as much kind of movement with the roster that was expected, but all in all, I think it got better on the day, and the buyout market needs to be a huge focus.
Yeah, one name I'm certainly paying close attention to on the buyout market is Otto Porter Jr., who got traded to the Orlando Magic today. It's not a sure thing that he's going to get bought out, but considering the youth movement going on in Orlando, if this man does get bought out, the Sixers should absolutely be one of the first people calling him, because his ability to defend, shoot the three, he can play small forward, he can play power forward. I definitely think that would be just measurable come playoff time for Philadelphia, because they're going to need, as much as they need more scoring, and he's not the best scorer. What you definitely need is physicality and strong defense, and we really saw that last season, which was an anomaly, of course, with COVID and the bubble and losing Simmons to injury. But without strong wing defenders, you're gonna struggle in the playoffs. And having one more in Otto Porter Jr. would be huge for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, so we mentioned kind of the trade deadline and the assets that have been retained. One of them obviously being Mike Scott. Apologies if there are mic problems right now. Not at all sure what's going on with it. I just know it sounds horrific from my end, so I'm going to try and move it around a little bit. But we mentioned Mike Scott earlier, whose form has been a little bit, I'd say, regressing over the past couple of years. Like, we look at what he did when he first burst onto the scene, and I think a lot of it, there was so much hype around, the Hive, and it was like the I ain't no bitch, and there was like an aura around him. And it feels like maybe that ever since that injury, or that it's tailed off a little bit, that the hype's disappeared, that when he goes, well, I've seen him, which is obviously nowhere near as much as you guys, but doesn't seem as comfortable on the floor. There's almost a bit of like, what do I do sort of thing, just like help, little bit lost. Is that fair to say, or is that just me not knowing what I'm on about? Because I feel like it could be either.
No, that's super fair to say. I was a little bit surprised there wasn't a little more shuffling with some of those back pieces. Mike Scott, he's not really playable in the postseason at this point. Furkan Korkmaz, as great as he's looked the last couple of weeks, you could make the argument that he's not someone you want in your playoff rotation. Obviously, Maxey doesn't look like he is, there's any plans of him being in the postseason rotation. So, yeah, a little bit, there was a little shuffling in the back end, not crazy, but it away from Brooklyn or Milwaukee or wherever else they might want to sign.
Audio you're being plagued with right now. I think most people might be alright. I'm not sure if it's just me or not, but Might have fixed it. I'm not entirely sure. The other question I wanted to bring to you guys was, I know the Sixers have a very interesting prospect down on the farm at the moment in the way of Paul Reed, who was named, obviously, G League MVP in the defensive All-Star team. Had a brilliant year for the Bluecoats. Are you surprised there wasn't maybe a little bit of a push from teams that become his way as a developmental piece, or even the Sixers to throw him in as one of those pieces to maybe go a bit above George Hill? Like, would he have had much value in that way, or is it a bit? Is that value in that G League performance a bit too much?
I will say I'm super happy that there wasn't, and I'm very happy he remains a Sixer, and he's a guy that I think should kind of be shifted into the long-term plans and not immediately short-term. But I think just given the sending Bradley and Poirier's little indication that
I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Give me a sec. Let me try and turn my audio. I'm very sorry. We just turned Sean into like some like drum and bass drop artist, and I'm not entirely sure what has happened. Okay, let's try this. Right, let's see if that works. Hello. Can you hear me? Right. Oh no. I need a new map, but this summit isn't going well. But hopefully, Sean doesn't sound like he's underwater too much. Yeah. Sean, I'm hoping it isn't too bad. I don't really know what's happening. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, Sean. So back onto Paul Reed. Yeah, I wish my microphone got traded. I wish my microphone got traded, because I have no idea what is causing this. Hang on, right, I'm going to try. Do you know what?
Daryl Morey, who's pretty prone to overpay, wasn't willing to match it. I don't necessarily view that as a negative. Like, as much as the team should be in win now mode, overpaying for the sake of overpaying is never a good idea in professional sports.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think as much as it kind of came down to somewhat of a game of chicken between the Raptors and negotiating teams, I think it's kind of like I like that Morey, to me, the move to trade Lowry would be so much of scrapping what we've built in regards to spacing and doing all that. And that even though Lowry would have helped on the defensive end, and there's certainly areas that like the team could use him in the half court, everything like that, just you're not going to find better floor spacers than Seth Curry and Danny Green alongside Ben, Joel, and Tobias. And that's been, we're first in the East. We've been so successful with this that I think that would have been such a movement, kind of a step back in that area. Not that Lowry is a terrible three-point shooter, but he's not certainly what I would consider a floor spacer. So I think like kind of sticking to his guns a little bit. I liked what I saw out of Morey, and he didn't kind of get intimidated by the spotlight, and like that's our guy. So I'm happy with it.
Zach, do you have any thoughts on this?
So, as far as and forgive me if I'm missing one of the
You're looking at less touches for Tobias, less touches for Ben Simmons, potentially less touches for Joel Embiid, less shots for Steph Curry. So at the end of the day, that fit is questionable for me.
So there have been some massive audio issues, as we know. Right, I'm hoping it might have fixed now, I'm not sure. What I didn't realise was I muted the wrong microphone. So when I muted my mic, I thought that was you guys talking. What I muted was the other one, and all we heard was a remix of Zach going one of the for about 5 minutes straight. And I don't really know why or how that's happened. So I can only apologise. But yeah, my bad. I'm not sure what's going on with the stream, guys. I'm really sorry the audio's that bad. But the fact you guys have taken it in jest and like maybe I'm kind of vibing to it now. I had no idea what was going on. But I literally went on the stream on my phone and just heard one of the. So that's good. I'm very sorry for that, boys. I'm hoping it might have fixed a little bit now, with a bit of luck. Are there any closing thoughts on the deadline and where the Sixers stand and everything so far?
I mean, I guess the biggest positive I look at is we didn't make a big mistake. Like, we didn't go out and risk anything without, like, we didn't take on more risk than we should have. George Hill's a very safe move. We didn't give up anything crazy. Tony Bradley, although he played great the past couple games, and much love to him, he served his purpose, and he's very replaceable in that regard. So I guess that's the biggest positive to it. I don't think they drastically changed their postseason outlook or anything like that. I still think they're a strong contender in the East. Brooklyn's still going to be a problem. But this isn't the end. There's still going to be some moves as the next couple of days and buyout market fully come together.
Yeah, absolutely. What about yourself, David? How are you? Oh, hang on.
I think Sean put it well for me. I think I agree with everything you said right there. Now it's just on to the buyout market. Let's see what we can snatch up from there.
Yeah, definitely the buyout market is where to look next. Unfortunately, JJ Redick won't be in it. Some other potential targets for the Sixers won't be in it, but there's still a couple great names. Wayne Ellington could very easily find himself involved in the buyout market. Avery Bradley depot. So it just goes to show how bad that James Harden trade truly was for them. So Wayne Ellington, Avery Bradley, I mentioned Otto Porter earlier. It's not likely, but a guy like DeMarcus Cousins could always come in to fill that third center role. And, there's going to be other guys who shake loose here, shake loose there. So moving on to the buyout market, getting ready for tonight's game.
Love that. And of course, you can get all of your coverage on phillysportsnetwork.com, which is where exactly we all want to be. So if you're not already, I promise there won't be a big article of just one of the written all the way down. There will be actual content there. So first of all, a massive thank you to you guys for dealing with the audio issues. Not exactly sure what happened there for a lot of it, but fingers crossed we fixed it a little bit. I'll get my MacBook. I'll get a new MacBook basically. Oh, good. Love that for me. Brilliant. This has gone so well. My MacBook is actually ruined. A massive thank you to you guys for dealing with the audio issues, putting up with whatever in the name of Battlefield 3 introductions is going on right now. It's happening again. I don't know why. It can only happen to us, man. It's fuming. But the way that you've actually taken on this as some sort of endearing act of PSN, it's pretty impressive. So, big thank you to Zach, to David and Sean for not buckling under pressure and carrying it on like the soldiers that they truly are. Plenty of content coming at PSN that doesn't involve the Battlefield 3 theme coming from a microphone. We will all see you very soon. Any closing thoughts, boys?
I think the quality of this stream encompasses the deadline pretty well.
That's fair. All right, so one of them will now just be like a trending hashtag forever. I love that. Guys, thank you for hanging out for us for the past 40 minutes or so. I'm sorry to any hearing issues that have ensued. We are unfortunately not financially liable for those medical costs. But we will be back with more live streams soon with our Sixers team. Again, big thank you to Zach, to Sean today for coming on. We'll see you boys soon. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday afternoon.